Well, hello, everybody. My name is David Chinery. I'm here again from Cornell Cooperative Extension of Rensselaer County, and we're doing another one of our Lunch in the Garden Zoom programs. And we've been doing these since the pandemic, so for about 5 years now. And we're happy to see a whole bunch of people have signed on today and are going to join us. This is one of our first, maybe the only one we've ever done as a panel discussion. So today I have Martha Ann, Kathy, and Keith along with me, and Marcy works here at Cornell Cooperative Extension. But Martha Ann, Kathy, and Keith are master gardeners, and we're going to talk about the gardening year in review. So a little bit about what happened in 2025 and our take on it. So we're the panel of quote unquote experts, which is a little scary, but maybe we'll be the panel of dunces here. I don't know. But we certainly welcome everybody that's here today. If you have a comment or question, please type it in the chat. Marcy's going to keep an eye on those, and she's going to point those out to us as we go along. We have a PowerPoint we're going to use just as an outline. So yeah, we want the audience to chime in. We want it to be not just me as a talking head like it usually is, but to be a little more interactive. So let me see if I can share my PowerPoint. Okay, so hopefully everybody can see that. And this is our topic for today. So I just want to say again, thank you for joining us. We enjoy doing these videos and PowerPoints and Zooms, and it's really good to have an audience. So thank you for taking your time out of today and being here on this cold and snowy day. So I was thinking about 2025, and one of my inspirations was this guy, Tom Lehrer, who many of you maybe remember from the 60s, I guess, maybe the 50s. He was a Harvard professor, pianist, mathematician, and he loved to make songs and do albums and TV or video shows way back then. And his show was actually called That Was the Year That Was, and it was sort of a comedy show. So this is our gardening version of That Was the Year That Was by my buddy Tom Lehrer. So we first wanted to start out talking about the weather because I think in terms of gardening in 2025, that was one. So here's some pictures to start out with. Some of you remember this. This was Mother's Day weekend in May. And here we are at the Sand Lake Garden Club plant sale and garden fair. And we were doing our tool sale along with those folks. And we had this torrential rainstorm. It was just a miserable day, windy, wet, and wild. So that was kind of how the spring was starting out. It was very chilly and not very nice out at all. So does anybody remember that?
Yeah, this is Kathy. What I remember about that was with all the rain, the weeds got totally out of control, and yet you couldn't go out and do anything about it because the ground was too soggy, it was way too wet. It was a miserable spring, all I can say. Anybody who liked that spring was a duck.
Yeah, it was kind of a challenging spring, right? And I guess we should have known this was kind of an introduction to it, how it was starting out in May. Here I've got soils were wet, some May planted crops flooded or rotted and had to be re-sown. I stole this picture from Cornell Cooperative Extension in Monroe County. So a lot of the state was very wet, all across upstate New York, and I think downstate was too. And I know I planted some things that never came up. I planted a bunch of seeds that never came up. And I think it was due to wet soil, right? When the soil is very wet and there's not a lot of drainage, we can foster rot organisms, or the seeds just fail to germinate.
I had many annual flowers that I planted in April, and they just were, because of the wet in May, just very, very slow to get going. Eventually they did, but
yeah, it just was a really difficult spring in that way. So then the second week of June comes along, And I remember this because I had taken the second week of June off to do a bicycle trip. And does everybody remember what the second week of June did? That was our first heat wave.
The 90s.
It was
Yeah.
over 90 for like 5 days in a row. And I thought, am I going to go ride my bike at 95 degrees? So that kind of ended the bike trip. But then the weather shifted, right? It got very dry and it got very hot. And this was a picture, I think, probably taken in July outside our office here at 99 State Street, 99 Troy Road in East Greenbush, and the lawns were turning brown because of the dry conditions. Some things that were planted in June suffered because of the drought. Now, I planted a whole bunch of gourd seeds this year. I was going to do a whole bunch of different gourds. Well, I think the first group of those rotted because of the wet. Then I replanted them, and then those kind of struggled all summer because I never could water them. So I put this picture in here because these are the gourds that David didn't grow. Okay? This was what I was supposed to have, and I'm embarrassed to show you what I got. I did get 3 birdhouse gourds, but that was it. Some of them grew. They never did much of anything as far as producing, though. So that was a challenge there, too.
And I'm going to continue on my weed rant, because then those weeds that got such a head start on me in the spring, when you can finally get out there in the summertime and do some weeding, it's impossible. You try to pull them up and they break off at ground level, and the root systems are all still in place. And the weeds loved it this year, is all I can say.
The weeds always come out on top, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Right.
go ahead. I was going to say, for the garlic likes to be watered almost every day in the spring. And I had a guy say that his garlic did not do well at all this year. I was pretty good, because my soil was heaped up, like almost like a raised bed, but in the garden, and so that did pretty well.
So you really needed good drainage in the spring, and then you needed an irrigation plan in the summer, right?
Yes, exactly.
So it was a challenging year. If you were kind of not on your game, you had a lot of problems. This is a cornfield down in Kinderhook. So how that corn is curling up there. It's just kind of amazing that it's really that dry that the corn curls up. Fall color. All right. We get a lot on our television stations in this area about, the fall color, because they want the tourists to come, right? And for fall color, not the greatest. Some of the autumn flowering perennials were a bit off. I put a picture of Sedum Autumn Joy in there. And I do a talk called Plants That Flower in Autumn. And I have a lot of pictures of not this last fall, but 2024 fall. And the plants were looking a lot better because I went out and retook some pictures again this year for that talk. And I noticed that even the sedum wasn't really doing so well. My dahlias did not produce a lot of flowers because I really couldn't water them enough. So again, it was a bit of a challenge.
Even the trees, they just seem to brown. The leaves just seem to brown and crisp up instead of turning that vibrant color. There's a maple tree at the end of my block that puts on a really, really big show every year. It's glorious. Not mine, but it's really a beautiful tree. And it didn't do squat this year. The leaves got all crispy and just fell off.
Yeah, the fall color was subdued, but on television they don't want to say that because they don't want to discourage the leaf peepers, right? That's big business for upstate and for Vermont because we got to keep those dollars coming up here. Whoops. Oh, well, these sunflowers, Martha Ann sent us this picture.
That one was from Christie's barn around pumpkin selling time. And I never did ask them if this was from drought, but it looks like it. The leaves were brown and black and gray, and the seeds were just ugly.
And then our first snow, November 9th. We're on our third snow already this year. So I think we're going to have some serious winter. So wow, it's 2025 is not going out calmly. Yeah, we only got 6 inches of snow, maybe 7, 8, depending where you are. But, we still have a lot of December left.
Yeah.
So 2025, maybe we're going to say, it's been good to know you, but we're moving on to 2026, and hopefully she's going to be a little kinder to us. And I
Well,
will
they're
say
also-
another thing. Oh, yeah, go ahead, Keith.
Well, just the weather forecast for later this week, some
Yeah.
very, very low temperatures for this time of year, around 2 degrees in some cases. And so that's going to wallop your hydrangeas and some of your flowering plants for next spring. So
Absolutely. Good point. Good point. And luckily, we did get some more rain in the fall, so we didn't go into the winter really dry. That would have been even worse. So we did get some rain October, I think it was, and into November. But the ground did get some moisture there. And the other thing I would just say is that I barely had time to get my garden put to bed. Sometimes
Yeah.
you've got a lot to do, raking leaves and rolling up hoses and, doing all that winterization stuff. And I barely got mine done. So before it really became winter. I just threw this drought map in here to remind us that, yeah, it was still droughty even into November. And if people don't know this resource, this is called the U.S. Drought Monitor. You can look it up by region, by state. This is a really great resource on the web when you're worrying about drought. I look at this every Thursday when it's updated during the dry period. So then I can obsess about how dry it is. So if you had water, maybe it was a good growing season. These are some wonderful vegetables that were grown by our master gardeners at the demonstration garden. They did really well, but boy, those master gardeners, they watered. And then remember that wet spring, that really set us up for a lot of plant pathogens and problems later in that summer. And we're going to talk about those kind of coming up next.
That vegetable garden is at Parker School, just for people that don't know.
Yeah, and here's some Marthan tomatoes. She was telling us about. She did pretty good, but she had some interesting challenges, right?
Absolutely. And when the video goes further along, I'll explain how I got these started early. I really had to struggle because it was not as warm as it was the year before. And so it was too wet and then too cold. And people thought I was a little nutsy for what I did. But this was some of the end result. This is what I call the Allen's tomato, which is heirloom. And I've kept the seeds going for 38 years or so. And on the sandwich, it takes up the whole bread and it's all meat. And then I did only 13 tomatoes or so this year and mostly different kinds.
That looks like a delicious sandwich.
It was great. I never got tired of tomato sandwiches this
The
year.
taste of August, right?
No, these were early. I should have marked down how early these were, because I've never had them quite this early, because after it was so wet, it got nice and hot. And who loves hot but tomatoes?
Very good. And then some blueberries, lettuce.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm trying to read the chat. I have blueberry bushes. I have 3 blueberry bushes that did really, really well. And in the spring and then in the fall, I often use this. It's a rolling water. There's water in the bottom. I forget what that's called right now. And so I have lettuces and spinach in there. And sometimes if it's in the spring, I will take those out and put them in the garden just to get those started. And I kept that going on and off all season.
Is that like a hydroponic system?
There's water underneath it, so it wicks it up.
Uh-huh.
It's not really hydroponic because that's soil that's
Okay.
on top of it, but it is automatic watering, and somewhere on the back left, there's a black tube. You just fill the water right in there if you don't have enough rain. And then I constructed little cover so I could put in the really cold time, I could just put a plastic over it to protect it.
Makes a great holiday gift.
It does. Home Depot, City Picker.
Okay, we'll get our royalties from that, right? All right, so how about some plants and pests? And these are ones that I kind of threw together, and panelists gave me some directions here too. So what do we see as far as problems go? And I'm guilty of being a person that likes all these kind of things because I'm fascinated in some of the biology and how these things work. So I get a little excited about disasters. I know not all gardeners do because, hey, they're harming our plants. But here's one that we saw this year. We don't always see this guy, the four-line plant bug. And this one you'll see in the spring. And if you look on the leaf he's standing on, there's these little tiny brown spots. And you'll get these tiny brown spots on things like coreopsis and some of the perennial plants. And you don't know why, and they turn almost very dark and black, those little spots, because these little four-line plant bugs aren't easy to see. They don't last that long. They're only around for a couple of weeks. They don't really do that much damage, so I don't know if you should go out and really want to kill them. But that's a little insect that does cause this damage that people often wonder, what are those black dots on these leaves in the springtime? This is another one that comes along later in the season that is often a really mystery to people. And look at the damage on that. That's Rudbeckia. I think it's Rudbeckia goldsturm, that plant that almost everybody has or had at one point because it became so popular in the 1980s. This thing is called a triosid, and this is a little sucking psyllid type insect. And you can see, I put a little picture of them there. It's almost a scale-like looking creature. It sucks sap out of the Rudbeckia, and it makes these purplish marks with a green center. And look how weird that damage looks. I don't know, you know what you would think that is. I remember seeing this for the first time thinking this was a disease of some sort, but it's really an insect damage. So we had some questions about that this year.
David, I want to interrupt and let you know that someone had said that they had the most delicious disease-free vegetables using silver hoses and the most gorgeous, delicious peaches. First time with no supplemental water this year. And she would not have expected it with the weather. And also her second year of sod webworms in her yard.
Oh, yes. I know who has sod webworms.
Yeah.
We won't divulge any names here. But sod webworm is interesting because I always thought it was a minor turf pest, but it can cause some damage. So we didn't put that in here today, but on lawns, that's kind of one that's of interest to me. And Keith as well, who works at a golf course. So we're always interested in our turf grass pests. How about this one? You guys ever seen this one? This is called pinkster gall or azalea gall. Somebody sent us this picture this spring. Here's an azalea plant leafing out, and then it has these sort of blobs of foliage, or the foliage kind of collapses and makes a big sort of lump. And this is a fungus that it causes this, and it's named for the pinkster azalea because it happens when these pinkster azaleas bloom. But it attacks a lot of different types of azaleas and rhododendrons. And I was thinking about pinkster gall the other day, and I happened to be reading a book about the history of the Dutch people in Albany, and it turns out that they had a festival called the Pinkster Festival back in the day at that time. So that was related to Pentecost and not necessarily celebrating a plant disease, but it all happened at the same time of the year. So you get horticulture in the weirdest places, right? Dutch history book and pinkster gall and, weird stuff. Here's a Martha Ann picture, at least the two on my left. This is a little creature that she found, and up in the top right-hand corner, there's a picture I stole that is really very diagnostic for the adult. It's called a clavate tortoise beetle. And what plant was that on, Martha Ann?
I wanted to say the beans. I should be better about writing these who's on what.
I think it mostly attacks plants in the nightshade family. So could it
Okay.
have been on a nightshade plant?
Or
Could have been, yep. I mean, oh, yeah, oh, that's what it was, potatoes.
Ah, there you go.
Yep.
Yep.
My beans were right next to the potatoes.
Yeah.
Which is usually good, but I'd never seen this as many of these. And then this is the one that has that fecal material, much like the scarlet lily beetle, where he puts it on the top of them to protect him, and nobody sees that it's him destroying the plant. But that being said, this was hardened and seemed he could hinge it and push himself upside down and kind of move himself about. It was very interesting bug, actually.
So it's a clavite or clavate tortoise beetle, and it has a fecal hat that it makes to protect itself. So that picture in the middle there, you can sort of see the nymphal stage there, or I guess the larval stage, I should say. And you can see the fecal hat that it's wearing, which is pretty wild stuff. And then it's just chewing holes in the leaves. I put in the golden tortoise beetle down in the bottom there. That's not my picture, but that one will attack plants in the morning glory family, and I have that every year on my sweet potato vines. Oh, no. I have the clavate tortoise beetle on my sweet potato vines. I have the golden tortoise beetle on the morning glory vine. That's right. And that's a similar beetle to these guys. So they're interesting. And you don't often see these. They can hide, and you kind of miss them too. How about weeds for a second, right? We got a lot of people telling us this year that they're seeing more and more bittersweet around, oriental bittersweet climbing up in trees. And it's been sort of a theme of this year. Just on Monday, I had a lady call, and she was very upset about this along the Hudson River. And I do think it's spreading more and more. The picture over on the left was a picture taken outside our building here at 99 Troy Road. And they were seedlings of oriental bittersweet taking over a barberry. So that's an interesting combination, right? If you know, barberry is also an invasive. But you guys have any thoughts about bittersweet?
it's everywhere. It's you really got to work at it. If you in October, if you cut it low, straight across the stem, and then apply some herbicide, you can have a better chance of knocking it back. But it's you should get rid of it if you can.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I have found that where my birds stop in the red winterberry shrub, that underneath I found a bunch of them, and so my thought is that they're excreting out seeds that they picked up elsewhere, because I don't have that, but I've been pulling that seedling from underneath that shrub. For a while I was like, where's this coming from? But that's where the birds will sit and eat the seed.
Yeah, I think the birds are real spreaders of it. And I don't want to blame the birds, because we like the birds, but
We do.
that is definitely a transmission. And I think we should try to make it one of our goals as master gardeners, maybe to get people to learn how to identify that seedling.
Yes.
Pull it out before it really gets going. Because you see, landscapes where people might have a spruce tree and it's way up in the spruce tree, and it's like, wow, you got a mess now. If you had pulled that out, 3 years ago, you would have been a lot better off. So it's a difficult
Like I see a lot driving down the road, like it's on the side of the roads. I feel like I see it all over the place.
Yeah, it's everywhere. It's a real nightmare. So here's a few more other nightmares. I put this one in. This is called beech leaf disease. And here's a survey of where it was. The red counties in 2023 had it. This is definitely a disease or problem on beech trees that's on the move. It can go on beech trees and landscapes, as well as beech trees that live in the forest, so native beech trees, as well as planted beech trees like the European beeches. It makes a very diagnostic banding pattern like we see in that picture there. And what is it? It's a nematode. It's a foliar nematode. Now, we don't have a lot of nematode problems in this part of the world, but a nematode is a little microscopic eel-like creature. And in this case, these are living in the buds of the leaves, and then they get into the leaves themselves and cause this banding issue, and then the leaves deteriorate. And these can kill trees maybe 7 to 10 years. And this started in Ohio a number of years ago. It has spread really rapidly east. And watch your beech trees. Here was a more up-to-date survey. I stole this slide from the DEC. They were out surveying for this, and you can see, if you know where to look, Rensselaer County is colored in pink along the Route 22 corridor, as well as the town of Schodack. So this is in the county. I haven't really seen it myself, but that's not necessarily saying anything because I don't get out as much as I should. But if you have beech trees, you might want to keep a lookout for this. There are ways to slow it down on a beech and a landscape. It's probably going to take an arborist that can have the skill and the access to those insecticides or the nematicides. But what's going to happen to our native beech is anybody's guess at this point. It's not a good story for the beech. So life's a beech.
Yeah,
We knew
yeah.
that was coming.
Sorry.
We knew that was
Yeah.
coming.
Yeah,
Not a
and
surprise.
this is a picture of it going up and down in the Northeast here. So we are definitely seeing a lot more bad problems for plants. And this is just one of them that makes me very upset. But, you know, we don't know where this is going to end up. Hemlock woolly adelgid. Now, I put this in here because we've been having a sad story about this for years, right? The hemlock woolly adelgid is an insect. It's a sucking insect. It's sort of an aphid-like creature. It lives under that woolly mass. Here's a nice picture of a hemlock stem. So that little insect is under that woolly cottony mass, and it's sucking the juice out of the hemlock. This really got going back in the 80s and had moved up the Hudson Valley. Probably in the last 15 years, we've had it in Rensselaer County off and on. And it's going further up north. It's been found up in Lake Champlain this year. But, you know, so it's been a bad thing for hemlock. It's killed thousands of hemlock trees. And here's a picture, again, I stole from the DEC. They've been doing surveys, and you can see the pink splotches there are where this hemlock woolly adelgid now is. It's moved out into western New York like it hadn't been before, and it's up at Lake Champlain in a certain area. They're going to try to control it up at Lake Champlain because we don't want this to get way up into the Adirondacks. But there is some good news. So good news is hard to find. The DEC and Cornell have been working on releasing predators of the hemlock woolly adelgid. So this picture, which I also stole from the DEC, is talking about how they're releasing two different predators. One of them is a fly and one of them is a beetle. And they've been doing this for a number of years, raising these predators in laboratories, releasing them on hemlock trees that are infested with hemlock woolly adelgid, and then hoping to see that these predators actually establish. Now, they're not just doing this willy-nilly. This took years and years of work to do because they had to establish that these predators weren't going to harm anything else.
Right.
All they're going to eat is hemlock woolly adelgid. So we're confident that they're not going to cause a problem. But the news was that this beetle called Laracobius is now being established. It's now making a population on its own in New York State. It's starting to live not just from the reared subjects that were released, but it's reproducing on its own. So once it starts reproducing on its own and spreading, we have a chance that the hemlock woolly adelgid population is going to go down. So that's really kind of fantastic news. I'm very excited about that. That's like a nice holiday gift, I think. So if you're down on the world and thinking things are not going well, hey, the hemlocks might have a chance after all. So the picture on the left is the beetle, the Laricobius beetle, and the other one, which I didn't know a whole lot about till yesterday, was called Leucotaraxis, and that's a fly that has a life stage where it eats the hemlock woolly adelgid. So hang on, hemlocks, help is coming. And there's just a fancy map that DEC made about where they've released these guys and how they're spreading. You can see that they haven't done releases here in our part of the New York State, but hopefully they're going to do more and more of this. And, we'll have a future with hemlocks in it. How about spruce decline? Now, this is one that people don't get too excited about, but boy, we get a lot of phone calls about it. Old spruce trees and landscapes, especially the Colorado spruce, the blue spruce that people put in front of their house. It was sort of a trophy plant for a long time. Grows up to a good size, and then a lot of the needles inside that tree start to drop and shed. Branches start to die out, and a lot of that is due to this disease called spruce decline or rab decline, or I should say rhizosphere decline, a fungus. So have you guys seen this out in the world?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Sure. So it's made a lot of people's spruce trees look pretty ratty. And the story is that these blue spruces really aren't the best tree to grow here, because where do they come from? They come from the Rocky Mountains, right? And it's a much drier climate, so they don't have, they're not really set up to resist this sort of disease that likes the humid climate of the Northeast. So don't plant a blue Colorado spruce. Or if you do, think about, you might only have it for 15 years or so, but some of us of a certain age, we're not too worried about that, right? This is the one that people talked a lot about this year, the lilacs. What's going on with lilacs? I think for the past 2 or 3 years, lilacs have looked really bad late in the summer and into the fall. So these are some pictures I think I stole from UMass. UMass Extension does a great job, and they have a couple different newsletters you can go sign up to get. And they were talking about this disease called Pseudocercospora, which is a fungal pathogen that is infecting lilac and really making it defoliate and look terrible later in the season. So does anybody have any experience with that one?
Oh, I've got a lot. Last year in 2024, one of my specimen lilacs that I got from the Rochester Lilac Festival a few years ago developed this, and it totally defoliated, and then it bloomed in the fall, which was not a happy thing, because when it came back this year, it was in a much weakened condition. It leafed out, it never bloomed, and it dropped all of its foliage again in the late summer. So I don't know what the fate of that plant's going to be. Now, the interesting thing is that I have another lilac on the property. It's very old. It's one of the old heirloom ones that I dug out of my parents' property decades ago, totally unaffected by this. Mm-hmm. And they're not that far apart from each other. So I've got the old-fashioned guy with that big, heavy scent that you probably remember from childhood that's not touched by this whatsoever. I've got a more modern variety, a named variety from the Rochester Lilac Show that has been devastated, and I'm afraid it has died. And this is a nasty disease. So that's my rant. What about Keith?
Well, I've seen this hit the lilacs, hit and miss, actually, just like Kathy. Some don't seem to be affected by it, but mostly I'm just trying to use some good cultural practices, clean it up, and hope for the best next year. I think they'll be fine, so we'll see.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to see if some of these do die, because if they get hit by this 3 years or 4 years in a row, mm-hmm. Is that going to really impact this plant? We don't really know a lot about how this is going to perform, because this hasn't been a big problem in our part of the world for that long of a time. So I think it's going to be a stay tuned. But I agree with Keith. Clean up the leaves, maybe prune it to have better air circulation. But if a lilac is susceptible to this, I think it's going to struggle. So
my concern is that the leaves haven't had enough time to do enough photosynthesis for the roots to have enough winter storage of the sugars that they need to reestablish in the spring.
yeah. So stay tuned for that one. White pines, I just wanted to mention this. This was, again, another piece that I stole from the DEC. They do surveys on white pine, and we've noticed for many years now that some white pines lose a lot of needles in the spring. We've called this white pine decline. And if you're seeing white pines that do this in the spring, University of New Hampshire, I think it was, and maybe UMass have done some work on this because it's a problem in New England. There is several different fungal pathogens and a couple different scale insects they found on white pine that they think are causing this. But again, when we have a very heavy precipitation in the spring, that might be related to this phenomenon in pines. And some of the pines, they look bad one year and the next year they don't look so bad. I've tracked a few of them in the neighborhood and I've seen some of them recover. I've also seen some white pines die from this sort of a thing. So white pine decline is another one that's happening throughout the Northeast. Jumping worms, I almost hate to mention, right? I didn't think it was a really bad year for jumping worms. I have a lot of jumping worms at home. I did have jumping worms, but I think the drought and the summer maybe slowed them down a little bit. What did you guys think?
I didn't see many until later in the fall. They seemed to come back. So it was a good year for most of the summer.
Yeah.
But one of the when we're going to talk about pests and with the moles, I have not been vigilant about removing moles as I have in the past, because I'm hoping, since they eat meat, that they eat worms, that hopefully they would find the jumping worms and eat them. Will they eat them? Because I don't know how else to get rid of those.
Well, I asked a biologist that question a couple of years ago, and I said, should we be making the moles our friends? And he said, I don't see why they wouldn't eat them.
Right.
I don't know if anybody's actually studied that exact interaction, but it makes sense that the moles would eat the jumping worm. So, yeah, maybe.
I don't think we want to have moles on the golf course, though. So.
Yeah, the golf course, they have pretty high standards. David Garden, yeah, it's okay. The moles are welcome, right?
In the chat, it says someone told me that they saw a bird actually eating a jumping worm.
Yes.
Good.
So hopefully maybe the birds will help as well. So jumping worms, they're interesting. I just want to throw this one out here very briefly. This is called laurel wilt, a new disease that was found on Long Island later in this season. It attacks sassafras and spice bush plants. It's been known in the South for a number of years, and suddenly it was seen in Long Island. They didn't think it was going to get to Long Island so quickly, and it causes a fungal disease to develop under the bark in the vascular tissue of the plant, and the whole plant collapses and dies rather quickly. So a lot of folks on Long Island have been very upset about this. It's a terrible thing. And it's spread by this insect called a red bay ambrosia beetle. Now, I was kind of putting this on my worry list, and then somebody pointed out just recently to me that the red bay ambrosia beetle is very cold sensitive. So they don't think the beetle is going to come this far north. So we're hopefully going to enjoy, 4 degrees this coming week. That will keep the red bay ambrosia beetle down south. So maybe we'll escape this one, unless that disease finds another insect to vector it. But these things, you think, what's going to come next, right? Box tree moth, and this is one that we're kind of waiting to see. I don't know if anybody's seen this here. This is an insect that will be a moth as an adult. It lays eggs, and then these eggs hatch into this fancy looking larva that's here. And these guys love to eat boxwood. So boxwood's had boxwood blight problems that have seemed to maybe turn the corner. But now we've got this insect coming, and you can see up on the map there, it's been found in much of Massachusetts, and it's been found in much of western New York State and even northern New York State. And we're kind of in the middle. So I'm waiting to see when we get our first report of box tree moth. Have you guys seen any of this? I know Keith has had a love-hate relationship with boxwood.
I surrendered on boxwood this year. I pulled out many of them. They were both abiotic and biotic challenges. Most of the boxwoods were planted along sidewalks and paths, so there was salt damage. And then there were a couple of vectors. There was a boxwood miner that I struggled to fight, and a psyllid, a little fly that also affected the boxwood. So with the coming box tree moth and the blight threat, I pulled them out and replaced them with some other plants. So inkberry and some hydrangeas and that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, that's a good IPM practice, right? Know when to give in. So this is just a nice graphic that Maryland put out on what to look for. So I'm kind of keeping this in mind. We're going to have to learn about this one because it's going to get here sooner or later.
This one goes very quickly though. So I mean, you can lose a plant in a month. So.
Yeah. This is and it flies quite a bit too. So it should be getting here. Ticks, we thought we'd mention briefly. Cornell has a pretty good website. I've got it down on the bottom there about ticks. Marthann likes to talk about ticks. So what do you think about ticks this year, Marthann?
Well, I think it was a particularly bad year, and I don't know if it's on there it is, on the program. We took off 16 ticks this year, and what I do is I usually will put them in this tape. One of the things I used to do is bring them to a presentation and let people safely hold the tick over their skin to see what it would look like, especially the teensy weensy ones. And this is, excuse my scribble, but it's a lab in Syracuse that if you go to their website, they will give you a number for each tick that you can put into a bag and send them, and they will tell you what, if they have any disease on them at all, and what you need to be worried about. What I will say is that of the 4 or 5 ticks that I sent, one came back with nothing, which is strange in an endemic area that we're in. And all of the other ones had Lyme disease, and one had anaplasmosis, which doesn't surprise me. And the information they finally gave me was the day I left the hospital having anaplasmosis. So they are good. It is free, and it will let you have that information. And so that's where that is. One of the things that I wanted to say in terms of good news today, since there isn't a lot, is that I was watching television, and Lambert, Georgia has a program called for the CRISPR, and it's CRISPR kids, and they're teenagers that are incredibly intelligent, and they are in a program which is called synthetic biology. And they have figured out a way to detect quicker than the test that we have out now. And so it's within the first 2 weeks of being bitten. So they can tell you whether you have Lyme in your system with their technology. And then they also, for treating it, can target the bacteria, looking for a specific protein that hides in the DNA. And they just won international Paris competition to be one of the top 10 in the world. So, there are little groups really fighting to figure out how to do this. And this is worldwide. So I thought that was exciting because we've been spinning our wheels as far as I'm concerned medically. And then for Kathy wanted to mention at some point that that there's an alpha-gal syndrome that some people will pick up from a Lone Star tick. These are the black-legged ticks we're talking about with Lyme disease. And the Lone Star tick is another one that's here. And a gentleman in New Jersey is the first death that we've had with the Lone Star tick. So that's the alpha-gal where you can't eat red meat and a few other things. So if you're interested, you can, look that up.
I had a bad year with ticks this year. I have 11 on me, 11 bites. And so I've established a better relationship with doctors on the availability of antibiotic.
Yes,
They were originally a little reluctant to, because they don't want the antibiotics to become ineffective. They didn't want to give it, but now I have supply. I was using my veterinary doxycycline because the human doctors did not want to make a prescription initially, but I convinced them that it would be a good thing to have. So they generally talk about a 200 milligram prophylaxis on the initial bite now. And talk to your own physician. I'm not going to try to practice medicine here, but I have only had reactions from a couple of my 11 bites this year, and the doxycycline seemed to knock it right down. So,
yes, I did kind of insist when I changed doctors that they would be very open to treating me before I had a problem. And so she was really good this year. So she must have had lots of patients coming in. And what else was I going to say about that? Don't engage in unprotected gardening. So that's my line from my and what that means is that you take your garden clothes that are specifically garden clothes that are sprayed off of you with permethrin and back and front outside, and you have your socks tucked into your pants or your pants tucked into your socks, and you're very good about I'll even spray DEET over that clothing at my wrists, any entry points, at my neck, and down at my shoes. And then I've never had a problem if I haven't just casually stopped to go weed and then go, oh, there's another one. Oh, there's another one. And that's why I say unprotected gardening.
Well, another one we have to worry about is called spotted lanternfly. This one's gotten a lot of press, and I'll just say two things about it. We know that it's been found in one trap in Rensselaer County at least. We haven't really seen a lot of this in Rensselaer County, but we did get a phone call from somebody in southern Albany County at the end of the summer that had quite a population of this on a tree. And we do know it's quite a bit in Dutchess County, so it's coming. So learn about this one. This is going to be a pest of things like grapevines especially, and some landscape plants. It really likes the tree of heaven, which is an invasive weed tree. But if you have one of those in your neighborhood, you might stand the chance of attracting a lot of these spotted lanternflies. But it's one of those we haven't known about it. We know it's coming, but we haven't experienced it yet. And maybe in 2026, we're going to get that chance because you can see, again, it's in Massachusetts. It's up the Hudson Valley. We're kind of surrounded in that little gray area. Just a note about moles and voles. We don't have a lot of time to talk about these guys, but we do have a really good video about this. If you go to YouTube and type in Cornell Cooperative Extension of Rensselaer County, you'll come up to our YouTube channel, and we have a whole program on moles and voles if you'd like to learn about those guys. One of our master gardeners talked about bears, and I've looked up some information. The DEC is talking about people taking in their bird feeders, and I think it was last winter wasn't really cold, so the bears weren't hibernating very deeply. So their advice was people should take down bird feeders by April 1, store garbage cans inside, and pet food indoors. So watch the weather. If we don't have much winter after all, going into 2026, those bears may come out of hibernation a little earlier than normal, and then they're going to be looking for that bird feeder, which is not good for the bird feeder or the bear or you, right? Martha Ann's got a deer fence.
That's right. I did fence in my gardens, and the negative was the driveway. And this summer, we finally put up a rolling gate so we could come in and out. And they, because I'm right next to all of the woods, they would come in and decimate all my rhododendrons and azaleas and yews. And now I have shrubs and flowers.
Do you have hostas?
I have hostas.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Sorry about that. This was a great picture Martha Ann sent of the black swallowtail larva. That's her picture on the right-hand side, right?
I think so.
Yeah, those were gorgeous.
That was fennel in the vegetable garden. I just let them eat it.
So that's a success, right?
Yes.
Japanese beetles, not so much.
That one, I just want to tell people they can put a cup right underneath a Japanese beetle, and I have soapy water in there and put my hand over the Japanese beetle, and the beetles dead drop right into the cup.
Right.
It's a little time consuming, but you're not spraying everything, and it gets very direct results.
And don't accept a drink from Martha Ann if you visit her garden. In a plastic cup. Bring your own water bottle.
Plastic cups.
I love the picture of the praying mantis. That was fantastic.
Thank you. And I don't know what is coming out of the top of the window. I was hoping you could figure that out. They look like grasshoppers, and they're all covered with grass and everything. You open up the window and they all fall out with all the and they don't seem to be particularly alive.
Wow.
They are not praying mantis.
Yeah.
I hope they don't. Praying mantis don't come out of the window. They have a specific cocoon or
We'll have
whatever.
to do a little research on that one.
Yes.
The tomato hornworm's always a favorite, right? With its
Yes. I never can remember the name of the parasitic fly that puts the eggs on them that kills them.
Yeah, it's a wasp.
Wasp. Thank you. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
I told you I couldn't remember.
But if you've got a tomato hornworm with the big white bumps on it, leave it alone because the wasp is doing its life cycle. And it's being effective.
Exactly.
And this is a great picture of the lady beetle. Wow. That could be on a cover of a science magazine.
I love that one. That was one of my favorites.
Fantastic photography.
Thank you.
All right. So in the last few minutes we have a few pictures of successes. So Martha Ann again has given us a lot of these. And this is what we do this all for, right? I'm sitting here going, why am I bothering
Yes.
gardener, right? But we do have some moments of triumph. So it does make it all worthwhile in the end.
Yes. There's Weigella and Iris and things that I wouldn't have if it wasn't fenced in. frankly. That was a pain in the neck, but it was rolled out black fence that we could put up in case my husband didn't like it, and he's learned to live with it. And that works.
Now, Keith is a great gardener. These are some pictures we took, or I took, over at Wolfert's Roost where Keith works. And he doesn't just have a few plants. He's got, annuals by the 10,000s.
Yeah, by the truckload.
Yes. So
it was a good year. Things worked out pretty well. It was a little slow start, and then we had to water every day. Some things didn't make it because it was just too dry and we couldn't keep up with the watering needs. But I did the annual flowers did pretty well, so I'm grateful for that. So
yeah, well, you have definitely a green thumb, my friend. So
It was
beautiful job.
beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, I do get discouraged about things sometimes, and you just have to take yourself out to a little trip like this, go see some garden somewhere where they're doing a good job, and you get all jazzed up again, right? You get reinvigorated, your spirits lift, and you go, hey, horticulture's pretty cool, right? Yeah, it's a lot of work, but the work does pay off. So good job there. Martha Ann has more beautiful pictures here. Atmospheric, I think.
What's the question?
I just was remarking that, like,
yeah.
the chrysanthemum there is a rather atmospheric picture.
Well, this is poppy and the water lily in my koi pond with a little thyme, and then the other one that's atmospheric is actually the yellow dahlia.
Oh, that's a dahlia.
Yeah, I love that one, and I do have extra.
Beautiful.
In case you want some.
Beautiful, right? All sorts of things here. Hey, we've got a hydrangea here. I'll mention that Spring Garden Day is coming up on March 21st. Our keynote speaker is going to be a lady who wrote a book about hydrangeas. So if anybody wants to learn more about hydrangeas, mark March 21st on your calendar. So, and we've got some fancy daylilies there.
Yes. And hosta, because I don't have deer, and the white bleeding hearts.
Very nice. Very nice. And a little vegetable action?
Yep. I have the winter squash going up over the hog fence, beans and potatoes and lettuce to the left, and broccoli, asparagus to the right, yellow beans on the other picture with kale and basil. So once things got started, like Keith was saying, then they went well. But for watering, I had to water by hand because I have a well. And so if I could water without worrying about it, I did. And if it didn't look like it needed watering, I waited.
Yeah. So this year I'm going to make a better watering plan.
Yes, me too.
And this was a what? What? What's going on here, sister?
Yeah, these were my 13 tomatoes, and I started them early year before, and it worked really well. And this year was wet and too cold, so I covered them with plastic, and I ended up putting lighting inside. The Christmas lights were just enough to keep a little bit of warmth going, and the bigger one I had 10 or so plants in there, and I had the work light in there as well for the evening, just to keep everything warmer. And then every morning I would come, if it was sunny, and open it up and let the air flow and let the sun in. And it was a lot of work, and people thought I was nuts, and I'm sure I was, but I had a lot of produce from it. And at the end, green tomatoes for salsa and green enchilada sauce. So we got a lot a lot of stuff in the freezer.
I think the Christmas lights just set it off.
Yeah, it looked nice when it was dark.
I love it. So, in closing, I'm going to ask our panel, what gardening trends do we see for 2026 and or slash what do you look forward to next year in 2026? Do we have any prognostications or anything that we're particularly excited about for the new year?
I think I'm going to try to get ahead of some pest issues a little faster, and I'm going to prepare irrigation even when it's raining out, because at some point it might stop raining.
Good advice.
Well, I was ranting about the weeds, and they got themselves really out of control. So my priority come spring is going to have to get down on my hands and knees and get some weeding done.
And Martha?
Well, everybody asked me, you know, aren't I sad that the growing season is over? And I go, you know what? No. I need the rest of the winter and then some to pull myself together and relax and have my body come back, because it's a lot of work. And so I'm going to look forward to this downtime. And I know that by February, March, I'll be starting seeds and starting all over again. But I would agree that I was going to do a irrigation system with the soaker hoses that I did not do because it was too wet. And I will try and get that done. And what I also do is, in the vegetable garden anyway, I mulch with paper, and then I cover it up with grass clippings and things like that to keep me from having to water too much. And then that all goes and gets recycled into the soil anyway and makes it good. So mulching is always good.
Amen. Amen. Marcy, do we have anything in the chat box?
The only thing that has been added, and it was after the spotted lanternfly, and I think it says that the spotted lanternfly looks like okra.
It probably likes okra.
Oh yeah, it likes okra.
Yeah.
It likes okra. Oh. Okay.
Okay.
I thought it looks like okra, because why would it look like it?
Well, I want to say thank you to all our panelists. You guys were great fun to be with. And I don't know how successful this was. I guess we'll let our audience tell us. I thought it was a lot of fun. It's kind of one of those things that we wanted to try a little differently and throw out there. So if you liked it, just let us know. If you didn't like it, well, you could let us know that too, I guess. But hey, we're for free, right? There's not a lot of costs are invested in this, so you can always change the channel. But we certainly do aim to please. And again, we thank everybody that tuned in today. And thank you to Martha Ann and Kathy and Keith. They're all really great gardeners. They have years of experience. I was actually going to add up how many years of experience we had here today, but then I didn't. And it would probably be 300 or so. So thank you guys.
I feel
Thank you. Thank you.